Well, I was going to say Zach has a question for you, Terrence.
Throw it at me.
He's brought it up on a couple of different episodes with different people because he likes to know, different opinions on it. Do you want to ask it, Zach, or do you want me to ask it?
Oh, I don't know what question you're talking about.
So
you haven't been.
So you don't want to ask it, is what you're saying?
No, it's the take on the 70-70 rule.
Oh, yeah.
Really, it depends. Oh, was that real? I'm sorry, you asked the question.
No. It's mostly just a general question about humidification, and the 70-70 rule shows up a lot of places. And then we had Michael Zales from Romacraft on.
Yeah.
And he has a different take on it. He was talking about heavier tobaccos can take more humidity. If I remember correctly, that was kind of his, like, the short version. And thinner tobaccos, maybe not as much. Do you have how do you generally run your humidor, and what's your professional opinion on the subject?
Yeah, so one, that's true. Like a Cameroons will require a little bit of a variation compared to a broadleaf or something like that. But I would say a big factor is also, like, where are you? Like, so for instance, in Florida, it's very humid. You may want to consider, being a little bit lower so that when you open up the humidor and the humidity gets in, it's not, if you're at 70, you don't want it to go above that really, and that's easy to do in a humid climate. Whereas in like Arizona, you probably don't want it any less than 70 because every time you open that humidor, it's gonna, suck all the humidity out. So I would say that those are things that you want to play around with a little bit. I mean, I think it's one of these trial and error things. It's like, depending on where you are and what you have in the humidor, you experiment a little bit. If your cigars start all cracking and everything, well, that's probably a bad sign. You might want to get a little bit more humidity in there. If you get a bunch of bugs and they're all squishy, well, too much humidity. Let's dial it back a bit, And so I think that there are some 70-70 is a fine rule. I think it's a good guidepost. I wouldn't say live and die by it, but it's a good, way to start and see where you should be at.
Yeah. Well, getting on that subject.
What is that?
So getting on that subject, I've been doing a little test because in a past episode we've actually talked about using tupadors, using your standard cedar wood humidors, using your new fancier climate controlled systems. Which one's better for a budget, which one works out better. And we did give the advice that whenever you're using like a tupador or something like that, use Boveda Packs that are certain already set to the certain humidification that you want. So what I tried in my experiment was I used the Humi-Care packs that you actually put distilled water into the tupadors, and I put them also into the cedar humidors to see what kind of difference you could get. And it's vastly different using the
distilled water in the Humi-Care or Humi-Care pack or the Humi-Care jars for the cedar versus the tupador. When I say vastly, I'm like almost like I think the tupadors are sitting at 77% humidification, where the cedar ones are sitting exactly at 70. So that is something to keep in mind whenever you are doing humidification. You may want to think about doing the Boveda in a tupador so it stays constant at where you need it versus the Humi-Care. Yeah, and it's also, it's one of these things, how much time do you have to really spend on these things? Some guys, they don't want to have to be constantly tinkering with the humidor. Some people like that. They like getting it to the exact precision so that they'll be right where they, they'll have the most optimal experience possible. And other people, they like cigars and they like to go in the humidor and take one out and smoke it and it'd be, it'd be well taken care of, So I think that's a big part of it too. Honestly, you guys probably know more about it than me because I have a gigantic humidor at the office, which I use and I don't have to keep track of whatsoever. So I put stuff in there. I do have a humidor at home and, I take care of it and everything. But I most cigars that I save have sentimental value. I smoke most stuff that I get in a fairly reasonable amount of time, so that I'm not, I don't have like pre-embargo Cubans sitting in there that I'm trying to sell on the auction market in 5 years or something like that, or that I'm saving till I retire or something, whatever. So all those factors I think matter. And for me, like, based on the fact that I have a gigantic humidor at the office and that I don't let stuff sit too long, I probably don't pay as much attention as other people do.
Yeah,
That makes sense.
and I've also found that light is a big factor when it comes to your Tupador
for sure.
versus your cedar.
Yeah.
Big-
Light is a big one because you ever see the cigars with too much light in the humidor and you take the band off and it's like, a totally
had a
different
tan.
color. Yeah. At a farmer tan. Yeah.